Few films have been plagued by production troubles as legendary as this long-awaited Cervantes-inspired yarn from indefatigable iconoclast Terry Gilliam. In Lost in La Mancha, the documentary that chronicles Gilliam's first attempt to realize his dream, back in 2000, a production cut short by flash flooding and an injured star, the Monty Python alum figures as a modern-day Quixote, a director driven by private visions, on a quest doomed to failure. He persisted, however, and, eventually, he prevailed. Almost 2 decades and numerous aborted attempts at production later, The Man Who Killed Don Quixote is a purely mythical film no longer. Riffing freely on his 17th-century source material, Gilliam has crafted a comedic misadventure set in the present day, centered on advertising director Toby, once an idealistic film student, now a deeply selfish sellout. Taking on the role originally occupied by Johnny Depp is the dashing Adam Driver, fresh from his Oscar-nominated performance in BlacKkKlansman. While shooting a Quixote-themed commercial in the Spanish countryside, Toby realizes that the village in which he made his student film, an adaptation of Don Quixote, of course, is close by. He impulsively abandons set in order to pursue a trip down memory lane. Toby gets a much headier blast from the past than he bargained for, however. Upon encountering Javier, the elderly cobbler who served as his leading man a decade prior, the director finds that he has been stuck in character ever since this star turn. What had appeared at the time to be method acting was, in fact, a slide into madness. Having appeared in a handful of Gilliam films, most notably as Sam Lowry in dystopian cult classic Brazil, Jonathan Pryce is an apt choice for the delusional Don, who was portrayed the first time round by the late Jean Rochefort. Wizened sprightly, Pryce plays the part with impish glee. Much to Toby's dismay, Javier, or rather, Don Quixote, decides that his unexpected guest is none other than Sancho Panza, long-lost loyal squire to his knight-errant. Once he has stumbled into the orbit of Javier's fantasy, Toby finds that he is unable to extricate himself from it. The only way to get anywhere with the unshakable old man is to play along, to say, yes, and, as it were. If their odd couple antics become a little tiresome at times, that doesn't detract from the rich irony of the scenario. The subservience imposed upon Toby by Don is karmic comeuppance, a pin with which to pop his inflated ego. What's more, Javier's fantasy world is one that is as much Toby's own creation as it is the erstwhile shoemaker's, or indeed Cervantes'. Throughout the film, visions, flashbacks, and dreams regularly masquerade as reality, bamboozling Toby, and the viewer, as he and Don wind their way through picturesque hills, unknowingly making their way towards a spectacular denouement, set at the decadent medieval costume party thrown by a cruelly eccentric vodka magnate, Jordi Mola. Because, in a Terry Gilliam film, reality is always thoroughly fantastical in its own right. with enthusiastically askew cinematography by Nicola Pecorini, who has worked with Gilliam from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, 1998, onwards. The Man Who Killed Don Quixote is a rollicking roller coaster ride, dense with the kind of narrative and visual intricacies for which he is known and loved. More than just a cinematic joyride, however, Gilliam is offering a commentary on the exploitative nature of filmmaking, a critique of Hollywood as colonizing force. Los Sueños is the name given to the fictional village in which young Toby shot his Don Quixote, meaning dreams in Spanish. And yet, when Toby projects his own dream of becoming a filmmaker onto the inhabitants of Los Sueños, he alters their very reality, something that he only recognizes upon his return, years later, when he finds himself subject to the whims of his own creation. The Man Who Killed Don Quixote is in cinemas from April 11. External link, The Man Who Killed Don Quixote YouTube trailer.